Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nupehadda. Today is January the 20th, 2020. The new ban list for the TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Has came out, and unfortunately, I only have a deck right now that was in the last format, so I do apologize that if y'all are not wanting to see an older format deck. However, this deck was completed in real life at the same time the new ban list drops, so I am not taking this deck apart until I at least show it. Without further ado, let me show you my Cyphering deck. First, we start out with 3 Cyrus Gadgets. Cyrus Gadget allows you to bring out a level 2 or lower tuner monster from your graveyard and face up defense position, having its effect negated. However, Cyrus Gadget is a Cyrus monster, so you can go into the Cyrus Link monsters. When he leaves the field, he can special summon a Cyrus token, which allows you to continue going to the Cyrus monsters until you get into your big combo piece for the Link Cyphering monster. I run him at 3 because you need him. Next up is Dino Wrestler Pinkertop. Now, he went to 1, so I'm going to have to change him out here, but essentially he was my beat stick. It allowed me to deal with any troublesome monsters that are at least 26 or less. And if they were smaller, then after I ran over something during the battle phase, I can just use his effect to pop himself to pop a card on the field. So he allowed me to get rid of trouble monsters, and I can free up the field in case it was early game. He'll be missed. I'll still run one of them, though. Next, we have Dot Scrap. Dot Scrap is a new addition to this deck, actually. I recently got him into the mail, but essentially, once per duel, if this card is sent to the field or is banished, you can special summon him onto the field. So he is also a Cyrus monster. He does exactly as Cyrus Gadget does, but having a 4th monster that can go into your combo pieces is not bad. Next, we finally get into the Cyphering cards. First, we are going to have Cyphering Multi-Threader. She is named Cyphering Driver whenever she's in your hand, field, or graveyard, but not in deck. She also allows you to protect your Cyphering monsters or cards from being destroyed by battle or by card effect by discarding her instead. Then we get to the originals here. 3 Cyphering Drivers. He is the standard of the deck. You need him into the deck in order to make this deck functional. Essentially, every Cyphering tuner requires him. Next, we have 2 Alphas. Cyphering Alpha is one of 2 cards in the deck that does not negate anything on your opponent. What he does is, whenever your opponent at the end action is summoning a monster on the field, you can special summon this from your hand to the deck, summon a driver, and then add a Cyphering card excluding Alpha from your deck to your hand. Now, I say whenever at the end result is, because you can actually combo this card with Beta or any other Cyphering cards and still get 2 Cyphering tuners off as long as you follow the same rules as TT or Torrential Tribute follows. Next, we have the second one that doesn't negate any monsters. However, it does negate the battle phase. Whenever your opponent attacks you directly, or whenever you're attacked, you can activate this card, special summon it and a driver, and destroy the monster in the battle phase. Now, you have to destroy the monster in order to end the battle phase. If it's one of those monsters that have protection against destruction and everything like that, it can still attack you. So now we're getting into the negators. We have Delta. Delta essentially allows you to negate any spell cards your opponent activates, as long as not being banished from the graveyard, because that is activating the effect, not the activation of the card itself. And we have 1 Delta. Delta does the exact same thing, except he just stops traps. Same principle. We only run 1 of him because right now the format is just not running enough traps to justify having multiples of him. But maybe one day. And then we have Gamma. Gamma allows you to negate monster effects. So essentially, stop anything, including an Ash Blossom or something of that nature. Now we get into the spells. We're here, Cynet Mining. Cynet Mining, interesting history of this. I only originally had 2. I literally had to bite the bullet and buy this. It was at $28. I kind of feel sick about it, but essentially, you discard 1 card from your hand and you search for a Cyberus monster level 4 or lower and add to your hand. This is actually a lot more useful than most people will give it credit for, at least anyone who's never played Cyphrames, because it allows you to set up your grave. 2 Foolish Burial Goods. This allows you to send cards that you either don't need anymore in your deck, or cards like Cyphering Overload or Dino World into the graveyard and use them for later. And the most controversial card I could ever play and still be playing in the new format, Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine, a lot of Cyphering players are playing 1-up. I am choosing to run 3 only because it is a good staller. Not many people are running anything that destroys backfield, and if you have the correct setup, you have Delta to protect you. So essentially what I do is I'll activate this on my opponent's turn using Metaverse, or I just activate it right straight from the hand and I just sit on it until I get my resources that I need. Next, we have the Cyphering Circuit. Pardon me a second. Cyphering Circuit, it allows you to go into your Cyphering synchros or any synchros as you want, as long as Cyphrames are being used for the summoning of it. You can activate this effect even on your opponent's turn. You have to resolve this effect in order to synchro. So if you activate it and they MST it and you have no protection for it, it will not work. So fun fact, you can also activate a second effect to discard a Cyphering monster from your hand whenever your opponent decides to have a bigger monster than you. Next, 2 Psychic Field Zones. Field Zones allows you to synchro summon from your banish pile as long as they are psychic monsters, and 1 is a tuner and the other one's a non-tuner. Now we have Psychic Path. Psychic Path allows me to grab 2 psychic monsters from my banish pile and add it back to my hand at a cost of 800 life. You don't need this, but I like the idea of being able to grab what I need. 1, Terraforming, of course we can only play 1, allows you to go into your field spells. Next, we are playing World Dino Wrestling. This allows you to get into Pankratop real quickly by sending it to the graveyard, which you could either discard it for Skynet, or Cynet mining, or activating the Foolish Burial Goods. And you can activate on your opponent on the same turn you send it, as long as they have more cards than you, or more monsters, I should say. Next, we're getting into the traps. Now, Lost Wind is one of these cards that I thought was going to be good. I'm still not completely sure, especially with the new format just activated today. So we will see. Essentially, you activate this card when your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck. You can target a special summon monster and negate its effect and make its attack and defense, I believe, go to half. It might just be attack, but whenever they would special summon a monster from the extra deck, you can you can set this card from your graveyard, and if you activate it again, it just gets banished instead. So I don't have any way to search it back, but it does the job what it needs. Metaverse is essentially, you can activate this to either add a field spell to your hand from your deck, or you can activate it onto the field. Now, Ash Blossom will stop this. And last but not least, for the main deck, 3 Psychic Overloads. Now, what Psychic Overload does is you can banish it from your graveyard to add a Cyphering card from your deck to your hand. While it's on the field, you can banish a Cyphering card from your field or hand to the banish pile and banish a card on the field face down. Cool thing about this is that the way that it's worded and the way that Omega is worded, Omega allows you to place this from the banish pile to the graveyard, and you can activate it at the same turn. Otherwise, you would have to activate it on the next turn. But we'll go ahead and get into the extra deck. Black Rose Dragon, just the reset button in case things go down where I can't normally stop it. Best thing to do with this is summon Alpha and then get into Multi-Threader, which allows you to protect your field, especially if you have all kinds of setup. Um, Borload's Salvage Dragon. He's a new addition to this deck. Essentially, after you go into your massive link combo, you can summon him, bring out one of the level or link one monster or link monsters from your graveyard and attach it to him. He gains attack half of its attack, and it gets counters equal to its level or its link level. And you can use a counter once per turn to negate an action your opponent does. Next, the Dragon of the Ice Barrier. He essentially is there as a level 6 that I can go into to discard cards from my hand to the graveyard and bounce stuff from the field. Next, we have Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Cyber's Quantum Dragon is one of those cards that I never thought I would ever play until I saw what it can do. He gets rid of any problematic cards you might have to deal with. Anything that essentially is unbeatable by card effects or by being destroyed by battle, you can just bounce it back to their hand or to their extra deck. And he can attack again. Next, we have Darko, Berserker of the Tinny. Essentially, he is a 3,000 beater for the most part. If he destroys a monster, he can attack again, and I believe he gains attack equal to the original monster's attack. And if an opponent activates a monster effect, I believe you can just banish it. It doesn't negate it, so that's the only bad thing about it, but banishing is not that bad. FA Dawn Dragster. This card allows you to stop measuring trap card effects from going off. I don't summon it that often, but when I do, it's mostly because I'm dealing with either a back heavy deck or a deck that plays mostly spells and traps. So it allows me to slow them down just a bit. The problem is, however, you can only activate them once per turn. And then we go into the combos here. These are the links that I normally go into. Link Devotee, Link Disciple, and Link Kuriboh. Essentially, this is the combo to go into the Link Cyphering monster. I'm sorry about that. Next, a more of a tech choice until I can find something better. Michael's the Light Swarm. He allows me to banish a card on the field that I need to get rid of, but the only downside is he'll mill your deck out if you're not careful. And then we got our Link monster for the Cyphrames. You just run 2 of him or her. I think it's a her, but essentially, whenever you banish a psychic monster from the field, you can activate her effect to search for a Cyphrame card at the end of your turn. Then, of course, we got Omega and Zeta. I only run 1 of each. There is no real reason to run 2 of this when you can place in more better support. So, Omega is the big star, obviously, but he can actually help you in situations that you normally wouldn't find possible. Plus, if a monster on the field was special summoned and it has one of those pesky, it gains attack for the material that it was summoned with and everything, you can easily get rid of that and reduce its attack either by its original attack or it goes to 0. Will not work against cards like the Million Eater or whatever it is, because it gains attack based on how many cards are banished. But it still helps you out. And last but not least, Thought Ruler Archfiend. There's a few reasons why I run certain psychic types into the synchros. Field Zone allows you to bring this out. He allows you to gain life if you destroy a monster, but it's only based on their defense, if I recall. But essentially, he's a level 8 2700 that they have to deal with. That is the main deck, and I will show you my side deck, and we will be done. The side deck was subject to change, so don't take this with a grain of salt. 3 Heavy Storm Dusters. I essentially just hate backfield. 3 Mind Controls, which will be reduced down to 2, which I don't know if I'll still be running or not, but essentially problematic cards I have to deal with. 3, Navarius of the Primal Being. As much as this card was hyped at the beginning, I just don't see any use for it anymore, so it'll probably be taken out. But if I can find a reason to use it, I will. 3, Roll the Crease. What can I say? I hate to deal with trap decks or anything that it's like chain burn or anything like that. So chain burn and all that can just die, especially trick stars. So that's my thoughts on that. And last but not least, Spell Counselor. Spell Counselor allows you to stop the, well, at the time, the most threatening Orcas or the Sky Strikers and all that, but now that they've been dealt with the new ban list and everything like that, there's not really much we can do on that. But that is pretty much it for this deck, and let me know what y'all think. Catch y'all later.